Last month I had the privilege of visiting parts of the Donbas, in particular parts that were recently liberated in Donetsk Republic. And I was invited by my friend, the Russian academic Andrei, to visit Donetsk City, Mariupol, but also the recently liberated parts of Avdiivka and also Ugledar or Vuhledar. A couple of things impressed me. First of all, there is a tremendous moral conviction amongst the Russian fighters and the volunteers from Donetsk, for example, made coherent and unified by their church. It's really become a type of a holy war, which I wasn't aware of. I was aware that the Russian forces had moved into the Donbas region to liberate the Russian people from the Kiev regime, which was installed as a neo-fascist puppet of NATO, of the US, after the coup in 2014, to liberate the Russian people, to protect the Russian state itself. But also, when you look at the religious motivation here, there is really a very strong and ancient tradition of values which the Russian fighters and the volunteers in the Donbas are protecting themselves. The second thing is the inexorable nature of the conflict. Really, although there's been tremendous resistance because of the backing of NATO and the constant supply of new weapons, the Russian forces are inexorably advancing to liberate most of the Donbas region. And you can see the situation of the people, the very difficult situation of the people there who have fled. You know, there was one refugee housing project in Avdiivka city where people had come in from the Kiev occupied regions and they were looking for other places to go, and they had great trouble talking to their friends and relatives when they were in Kiev occupied areas because of the terrible reprisals that the Kiev regime carries out against those who are seen to be friends of Russia or collaborators with Russia. One other thing we saw was that in Donetsk City, we got a chance to interview some defectors from the Ukraine side, and they were incensed by the fact that they'd been sent in to fight the Russians, not simply to protect Ukraine land in some sort of abstract sense, but to drive a wedge between the Ukraine people and the Russian people, which they saw as effectively, historically, a single people. And of course, that's the way the church sees it too. And they were horrified by the needless loss of life of young Ukrainian people on behalf of a neo-fascist regime in Kiev, and they were determined to oppose that, and therefore they created a volunteer brigade to work with the Russians in liberating the people of that region from this neo-Nazi regime.